It's now my great pleasure to call on stage the Director General of the European Space Agency, Josef Aschbacher. Please join Enrico. Welcome. Enrico, over to you.
Josef, a warm welcome back to Australia. You're a fond friend and have visited Australia and the region many times. 2025 has been a very momentous year in ESA. One of the key thrusts was launching ESA Strategy 2040, which I encourage the audience to read and study. Tell us a little about the journey. Why did you publish a new strategy this year?
So thank you. First of all, very happy to be here. Congratulations to organizing this fantastic IAC, to both of you actually here on stage, but especially for you hosting us here. It's such a pleasure. So why did we publish the strategy 2040? First of all, we didn't have one. So we really were sitting back and said, look, where do we want to go long-term, not only for 4 years, because in the past we have published strategies that were attached to the mandate of one DG, of one Director General. I did one when I started in 21, so I published a strategy 25 called Agenda 25. But this time I thought instead, when I was renewed, I thought instead of doing an Agenda 29, why not looking further into the future? And not only my document as ESA Director General, but really something that is developed together with the member states. So this is a much wider one, much stronger one, and a longer view strategy that we have published. So it's really important to have a clear guidance. Where do we want to go? What is our main priority? And obviously then we implement the strategy via ministerial conferences step by step. So it's really a nice document. I can warmly recommend to read it. It's really giving a very good impression of where Europe puts its priorities. And one of them, the number one priority, is actually the theme of this conference here, which is on protecting our planet and climate.
Yeah, so to that point and that priority of protecting planet and climate, and you know, I think the theme of this year's Congress couldn't be more timely from a sustainability of access to space. How are you leveraging ESA technology and partnerships to, whether it's to combat climate change or ensure that space activities are sustainable?
Yeah, sustainability, climate change are extremely important policy priorities for Europe at political level, but also in space. That means developing space activities. And I think it's fair to say that we have really taken this guidance, which does come from our member states and their political leaders, to heart. And we have developed a space program that is quite outstanding in terms of monitoring our planet. But we do all and much of it together with our partners. One example is the Copernicus program. I think it's well known now globally. But we also have a science program, a meteorological program that goes hand in hand with the Copernicus program. And there we deliver about 350 terabytes of data every single day to users worldwide free of charge. That means we are offering to anyone to get these data of the oceans, the land surface, the atmosphere, the polar regions, so really all the elements of our Earth system for free, downloading them from our websites. And this is really also a contribution of Europe in general, and obviously also the European Space Agency, to make sure that we are, first of all, monitoring well our planet, but also then providing this data to anyone to use. And it's not only for climate change. Climate is probably one of the parameters that is, would say, well referred and quite often quoted. But these data are used for business, for agriculture, for forestry, for disaster management, for air quality, for ship routing, for air traffic management, and many other applications. And I can tell you, as probably many of you in the room here also are witnessing, there are many applications based on this data. So I'm very glad and very happy that as ESA, we are really working with the countries, for the planet, for its betterment, if I may say, but also with all the partner agencies across the world to really get access to them. And Australia is one of our partners. We have an agreement with you to get a mirror of all the Copernicus data, which you then disseminate within the country and within the region.
Yeah, that generosity of ESA for that data is well appreciated by us, and I'm sure many nations around the planet. Our National Science Agency, CSIRO, and our Geophysics Agency, Geoscience Australia, benefit from that data, and we use it extensively in management of our wide and diverse land here in Australia. Changing themes a little bit in Strategy 2040, and I think this reflects some recent speeches as well that you've delivered, it does call on strengthening European autonomy and resilience in space, while boosting the growth and competitiveness. So how are you developing those homegrown capabilities? What are they? And talk through a bit of the strategy about resilient access to space.
Yeah, autonomy and more independence in terms of strategic developments is certainly an important aspect, but that doesn't exclude international cooperation, and this is really going hand in hand. One of the actions I did just recently is to reinforce global partnerships. We have obviously a very long-standing agreement and partnership with NASA for decades on many domains, but also with JAXA for many decades. I see my friend from JAXA here, who will probably speak in a minute. And just in November last year, we have reaffirmed our long-standing cooperation to make room for new large, big corporations together with JAXA, and we are at the moment working on 4 domains that we have identified. But also with India, I've signed an agreement recently to focus on an intensification of cooperation, in particular here on exploration. With Canada obviously being a cooperating state of ESA, has all the access to our programs and is participating. I had a very nice interaction and mission also to Canada, to Lisa and her team of the Canadian Space Agency, again to reinforce this cooperation, and many other countries, the UAE and several other countries that we are working with. So this is really something that goes from major agencies to many small ones. Altogether, we have about 320 international agreements that we have signed and that we're implementing right now. But coming back to your point on autonomy, yes, of course, we need to build up strength. We need to build up technology. We need to build up assets that we have in order to be a good partner on the cooperation and partnership table, in order to offer something and obviously get something in return for any good partnership. And this is certainly a priority we do. Autonomy starts with launchers. We have just had access to space again. We called the launcher crisis when we did not have a launcher between Ariane 5 and Ariane 6 for a period of 1 year. And I was deliberately calling it a crisis to make people aware how important launchers are as a very fundamental infrastructure to get access to space and therefore deliver satellites and receive all the data that we get from there. We have also at the same time decided not only to stabilize the exploitation of Ariane 6 and Vega C and ramp up the launch cadence, but also to have a completely new way of buying launches in the future through what we call the European Launcher Challenge, where we have newcomers that we select that may build up their rockets and sell services to us as an anchor customer. Some of the first ones are coming probably in the very near future. They have all their work in preparation, and we are very much looking forward to see them launching very soon. And this is really a complete paradigm shift of how in the future we will develop the next heavy launcher, which will then succeed obviously Ariane 6 as the heavy lift launcher which we have today. Of course, we need to stabilize the exploitation, make sure that our workhorse is really delivering all this capacity medium to long term. But yes, autonomy is certainly something that starts with launchers and then goes to programs like Copernicus, like Galileo, and others where we are building up strength and therefore capacity and infrastructure.
Wonderful. Congratulations on driving that strategy and that investment. I started by acknowledging it's a momentous year for ESA. So congratulations for all of us on the 50th anniversary of the European Space Agency in 2025. And we're certainly proud here in Australia that the roots of ESA through the European Launcher Development Organisation started here, and it's wonderful to see how ESA's obviously blossomed over those 50 years. So as you celebrate the anniversary, another key goal in ESA's Strategy 2040 is to inspire Europe. So how are you inspiring the public, the youth, and others through the Inspire Europe program?
No, inspiration, of course, space and inspiration go hand in hand. But let me just say, Enrico, one word on the announcement you just quoted before when you made your speech, your introductory speech to this panel here, that your minister announced and gave you a mandate to negotiate a cooperation agreement with ESA. And I'm very happy to see that. Thank you for the trust in choosing ESA as one of your partners, and very much looking forward to do that. You mentioned rightly that actually we had a very intense cooperation 50, 60 years ago when you were a member of ELDO, which was the predecessor organization of ESA, and we launched about 10 rockets from Australian soil, the Europa rocket as it was called at the time. And I think this already shows how long-standing our cooperation is, and how intense and how deep it is. But coming back to inspiration, yes, inspiration or Inspire Europe is one of the 5 pillars of the new strategy. Of course, space is inspiring by nature, but there's many actions and many elements that are making this possible. Obviously, the astronauts are always the very inspirational ambassadors of space, and they are doing a fantastic job with all the work they're doing on the space station, and really coming back with the results, but also the impression they have from their point of view up in space and seeing planet Earth. And every time they come back to planet Earth, I ask them, what has most impressed you when you have been on the space station, apart from doing all the research and technical development? They all say, looking down at our planet, seeing it from a distance, from a very different viewpoint, is so fascinating, is so inspiring. You don't see wars, you don't see borders, you don't see different races and religions. People are just down there, and this is a planet that is so beautiful, but also so fragile, and we have to protect it. And I think this notion of seeing it from there is very strong, and is something very important. In fact, one of the astronauts, when he came back, said to me, look, I wish that every single citizen on this planet, 8+ billion people, could go to space once and see it from there, and the world would be a very different one if this would be made possible. But inspiration also, of course, means having European projects working together that inspires, being proud of achievements that we are making among the countries. As you know, we are uniting 23 countries through the European Space Agency. And this is also inspirational, that we have projects that are of a European dimension, where we build rockets together, where we build satellites together, data systems together, digital twins together, and really work at the forefront of space technology. And I think this is something where I really want to attract young people, young talents to the programs and projects we are initiating. And I think this is really inspiring and inspiration at its best. And yes, this is one of our priorities as well.
Wonderful. We'll take one quick question from the audience before we have to wrap up, and they're ranked here for me. So with respect to launches, one of the questions is how is the ESA thinking about reusability of launches in design going forward?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a key question. Of the new candidates that we have now selected, there are 5 of them that we have in the inner circle for the next phase. All of them will use reusability as a key criteria, because it is about cost, and cost obviously is reduced by using reusability, of course, at a certain, I would say, weight class, because this only becomes really efficient above a certain weight class. But certainly reusability is one of the prime elements I see coming in the new launcher generations.
Great. Well, Josef, thank you very much. Congratulations on the 50th anniversary, and Australia is thrilled we're entering negotiations on the cooperative agreement.
Thank you so much.